Tips from Trestle is brought to you by eMenu Choice Point of Sale, Wyzox AI, and Benny Keith Foods. Welcome to Tips from Trestle, the Senior Living Food and Hospitality Podcast. This podcast explores the senior living industry with a unique focus on food, hospitality, and the community experience. I'm your host, Aaron Fish. My goal for this podcast: educate, inform, and inspire leaders in senior living. How? By bringing the resident and customer experience to the front of mind in our industry. We should bring the passionate spirit of food and hospitality to everything that we do and everyone we serve each and every day. So what are we waiting for? Let's get to it. Welcome into this special episode of Tips from Trestle. I am joined today by Michael Lammey. Michael is a United States Naval Petty Officer First Class who served over 9 years during Operation Enduring Freedom before a 2006 boiler explosion aboard the USS Frank Cable left him with third-degree burns on over 48% of his body. Despite enduring more than 50 surgeries, Michael has transformed his life-altering experience into a source of hope and inspiration for others. Since 2019, he has served as a member of the Folds of Honor Speakers Bureau, sharing his story to honor fallen service members and educate audiences about military sacrifice. His family exemplifies Folds of Honor's impact. His wife Rose and daughters Alexis and Mackenzie are scholarship recipients, while his eldest daughter Francine currently serves in the U.S. Navy. His mission is to honor the fallen and educate the living, ensuring America's heroes are never forgotten. Michael, thanks for joining me today on Tips from Trestle.
Yes, thanks for having me.
I am so excited that we were able to connect. This podcast is going out on Veterans Day, and I wanted to try and take that opportunity to share a story that I thought would be impactful. And the partnership that one of my sponsors, Benny Keith, has with Folds of Honor hit all the marks. And so when they connected us, and then I got your information, I got really excited. I want to start first, though, by having you tell us your story, right? You experienced what has to be one of the most harrowing incidents a service member can face with the explosion and everything. So can you kind of walk us through that day in December 2006 and how it changed your life and your family's future?
Sure. A little bit of the mechanic with how the day played out was it was a normal day the way it started on our ship. I was on the USS Frank Cable, which is stationed over in Guam. So we went out on a little 5-day training mission where we would just go out, run drills and do all kinds of different things. And we pulled back in to the port in Guam. We had some maintenance that we had to do on one of our boilers. And that maintenance was lifting the safety valves. It was just a regular maintenance check, all that stuff. Got into that and started doing the maintenance check. And as we overpressurized the boiler, there were some problems inside it and it ended up exploding. And so it released 720 degree superheated steam into the space. And these boilers are huge. I like to say they're about the size of a single story house, like a real small single story house. And there's 2 of them in the space. When it starts releasing all the steam, that's a lot, very fast, very overwhelming. And the whole watch team was down there. It was like 6 people. I took a breath. I knew I couldn't breathe steam. And I just started running up the main egress part. And it's 3 stories up. So as I got to the second story, and the higher you go, the hotter it gets, or heat rises. I got up to the second story and everything just started to go black on me. I was holding my breath and doing all that stuff. And all of a sudden, I just got hit with another surge of adrenaline in my body, tried to instinctively take a deep breath, and I burned my mouth, my throat, my lungs because I inhaled the steam. And then I was able to make it up the last ladder through God's grace or sheer will, both together, he knows that. I was using everything I could at that point. And then we got up there, made it out of the door, and the only thing I was thinking was, I got to get outside. I can't breathe this. We all made it out of the fire room and made it to the back of the ship. And then they called over those big emergencies, so the ship personnel responded, and then we were in port, luckily. Otherwise, it probably would have been a way worse catastrophe. And then the Guam Emergency Services arrived and took us to Guam Naval Hospital. Given initial treatment there as much as they could for the small island hospital that it was. And then we were prepared for a medical evacuation, or medevac, from Guam to San Antonio, Texas, to the burn hospital there. The incident itself lasted seconds, right? 45, 50 seconds from the time of it exploded until the time I was out of the space. But you run through that hot of steam, and it's just, the effects are instant. And so I was medevaced to Brooke Army Medical Center, which is the Army's burn hospital. And it's in San Antonio, Texas, which is where I live now. And then I went through a month of inpatient treatment where I was in a medically induced coma. And then I was having surgeries this whole time, skin grafting and stuff like that, normal burn stuff. And I don't know how much your audience knows about skin grafts, but if they want some nightmare fuel, they can Google that. And so I was doing that. And then the first month I was in what they call a step down unit for another month, where you're more conscious and aware of what's going on. The medication's not IDs, it's more pills and stuff. So you're a lot more lucid and aware of just how bad everything is, right? And so after that month, I was released from the hospital and then discharged into my wife's care. My wife became my primary caregiver. So she was doing all my bandages and stuff. We'd go back to the hospital every day, and I'd have to talk to the burn doctors and then go to physical therapy and then come home. And it was just this rotation of dressing changes, wound care, and physical therapy day after day. So we went from December 1st to the beginning of the day. The Navy's great. I'm probably going to be this career guy. I'm going to do all this stuff. And then by the end of the day, it's like my career was over. And now I have this long, treacherous recovery period that's fraught with pain and all that stuff.
I can't imagine the dramatic change. I have a couple of brothers who served in the Army long term, and they were fortunate to not have any serious incidents like yours. And they were career military men. And so it makes me wonder, having that immediate shift, the military career is over, what kind of impact did that have on you and your family as you thought about the next steps after your recovery?
It changed everything instantly. And they have this saying or phrase that they use in the hospital, and it's a new normal, right?
Yeah.
Your life is so different now. You have to get used to this and create whatever your new normal is going to be. And so we had to do that with our kids. Everything was affected in that, from finances to marriage to children. And we were planning on rotating back after the military life. You're going to transfer and you're going to move. We had that mentality, everybody knew that, but then we just got jerked over to Texas. We didn't have time to really transition. And so it was hard for the kids. They had to stop going to school halfway through the year and then started in a new place. Not to mention all this background stuff going on at home. So it's very difficult and challenging for the children, not only just having culture shock, right? Or going through one like that, and then also being in this, now we're in the injured military category, which on its own can be culture shock. It was a very stressful transition, I think, for everybody in our house. So it took a long time to kind of right the ship and just, okay, now we're okay. Everything's calmed down. And let's regroup and refocus on where we're going now.
One of the things in your bio that was shared that I found fascinating is your oldest daughter, Francine, followed in your footsteps and is serving in the Navy currently. And you could definitely think how an experience like that could maybe sour someone to service. And because of that connection to the military service that you and now your daughter has, you've obviously engaged with Folds of Honor to work with them. How has that support with you working with them and them supporting your family with the scholarships, how has that really impacted your family as a whole?
I think the incident overall kind of like shocked everybody, right? Because the day the bad thing happens, it makes it real for everybody. There's always this potential that things can go, you know what I'm saying? And then the day that it actually happened. So that was traumatizing for everybody. And at first, after that, going forward, our family was like, okay, we did our service. We're good. We'll do that stuff. But I think as a whole, we were able to identify it as a tragic day and not blame anybody or any certain incident, which I think is important.
Yeah.
And so it was just an unfortunate series of events that led to a tragic outcome. And we were able to get over that. And then as my daughter got older, she was like, oh, I want to go do this thing. And it's her choice. And she went out and she's crushing it. She likes it. She's having a great time being in the Navy. She works on helicopters and doing all that stuff. And now with the Folds of Honor thing, we're able to now educate our kids and help them achieve goals that I wanted originally for myself and my wife. And then now that we had to create our new normal, we were like, okay, let's focus on the kids. We got to save the kids, right? And So we tried to pull them out of school, put them in an institution where they had tutoring and everything like that is all in one location. And then when I transitioned from active duty military to the veteran programs, our finances changed. And so we're really struggling. I don't know how we're going to make this happen. And fortunately, my wife was the one that she wanted a caregiver retreat and she found out about Folds of Honor. And then she came back and told me, I think we should apply for this scholarship. They help people like us in our situation. And I said, sounds great. So we applied, we got accepted, and we started getting the scholarships. And I think that not only changed the trajectory of where my family was going, but it also accelerated it in a positive direction. Because now we have this help, saying we have this support from everybody. And it felt good. And it also helped us keep going on that positive path.
The goals and aspirations that you had for them, they were able to come in and help support, making sure that your kids had the support they needed for that continuing education, which is amazing. You've been working with Folds of Honor since 2019. And so you've seen firsthand for a number of years now how they operate. Can you talk a little bit about the scope of their impact? The information that I got, 73,000 scholarships, $340 million in the past 20 or so years. That's pretty impressive. And so I'd love to get your take on that impact to our listeners.
Technology continues to drive changes in senior care, and that includes food service. eMenu Choice is an award-winning point-of-service application for managing the dining function in senior living communities. This mobile, touchscreen-enabled software enhances the dining experience for residents while streamlining processes for staff. The flexibility and functionality of eMenu Choice makes it an effective solution for any type of senior living environment, from independent and assisted living to skilled nursing facilities. It works for production kitchens or restaurant-style service with options for per meal or a la carte pricing and accommodates a variety of payments, including bill to account, meal credits, and credit cards. Created by a senior care provider with more than a century of experience serving older adults, eMenu Choice eliminates communication barriers between staff and residents while enabling person-centered choices and greater resident satisfaction. eMenu Choice, transforming dining for senior living.
Now joining me is Marc Mosley, the Vice President of Healthcare for Benny Keith Foods, a partner with Folds of Honor. And Marc, first of all, thanks for taking a few minutes to visit with me. I'd love for you to share how Benny Keith got started in supporting Folds of Honor.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Aaron, and really glad to be here with you today. Folds of Honor has been around for a long time, really since 2007. Our president of our food division, Mike Sweet, was at an industry event in 2016 and heard Lieutenant Colonel Dan Rooney speak at that conference and met him. They had a good conversation. And in fact, at that point, Mike asked Dan to come and speak to one of our meetings for our company, which occurred in 2017. So that sort of began the relationship and the partnership with Folds of Honor. And we've been now working together with Folds of Honor for the last 8 years.
Obviously, over the last few years, you've developed this relationship. What kinds of things does Benny Keith do to support? Are there events or fundraisers? Talk a little bit about how you guys support them.
Yeah, so there are many fundraising events. And I'll just say at every level of our company. So whether it be at our corporate level or at our general office for our food division, and then all 10 of our distribution centers. We cover 20 different states. And so we are very active with Folds of Honor with really almost all events. We have golf tournaments and various types of events where we have suppliers and customers and just a whole lot of awareness given to Folds of Honor. And really that in itself is really something that we really focus on. The Folds of Honor logo and the Folds of Honor message is even on our trucks. If you're driving down the road, you might see a Folds of Honor message and so forth. So we're all about putting the message out there and wanting to make sure that people are really aware of the great cause that they stand for. And we certainly see the alignments of their core values really resonate with us, whether it be education or establishing a legacy and so forth. We really believe in that, and we want to foster that message and really support them.
That your DCs and the local locations are involved too. A lot of times you hear about a partnership with a big company like Benny Keith and you think, okay, it's a corporate sponsorship and maybe there's a couple of things here and there, but that it's at the local level where people can really feel connected, I think is impactful.
Yeah, it really is. Aaron, one of the things about Folds is that it's all about these scholarships that are being provided to the families of fallen or disabled heroes of U.S. military or first responders. And the Benny Keith Company is about family. We're a family-owned company. We have a light culture and family members that work together. So to be able to honor those families and their sacrifice is a real privilege.
This conversation that I'm having with Michael about Folds of Honor and his story, really what you said is exactly his story. And there's so many more thousands of them just like it. And so it's really, for me, having family members who have served and fortunately not have that experience and just seeing all the support from everywhere and with an organization like Folds of Honor is so great. And as we close out this segment, Marc, when you think about the benefits of a partnership with Benny Keith and Folds of Honor, what do you see as the value in that for Benny Keith?
Really, Aaron, it's not about a value to Benny Keith. It's about a partnership with this wonderful organization that we believe in and want to support and want to help. We just want to align ourselves with them and do what we can to support their cause. It's a great cause, and we're very happy to be part of it.
Yeah, I can definitely appreciate that. And I appreciate the fact of it's more about them than it is about you. And even like me and the podcast, the whole purpose of this podcast is to tell that story of Folds of Honor here on Veterans Day. Marc, if people want to learn about Benny Keith, where would you send them to find out more?
Certainly, you can go to our website, www.bennykeith.com. That is the best way to find us. And of course, with regard to Folds of Honor, foldsofhonor.org is the website that you can go and find out more about Folds of Honor.
Perfect. Marc, thank you for taking a few minutes. Thank you for being a sponsor of our Tips from Trestle podcast and helping us pull together this amazing conversation on Veterans Day about Folds of Honor.
Absolutely our pleasure. Thank you, Aaron.
For over a century, Benny Keith has been a trusted leader in the food service industry. As a broadline distributor, we offer an extensive selection of products, delivering to 21 states through 10 distribution centers. We can help you create a thriving culinary culture by pairing quality products with customized solutions that elevate your residents' dining experience. Our team of registered dietitians provide unmatched customer service by modifying menus, selecting recipes, ensuring regulatory compliance, and more. Quality, value, and service are at the heart of everything we do. Benny Keith Foods puts the care back in healthcare.
Yeah, I would say that in the earlier days when I first came on in 2019, the Speakers Bureau wasn't very big, and they had a few scholarship recipients that were traveling around and trying to just spread awareness and tell the stories, because it's one thing to hear the organizational leader get up and tell you how great the organization is. That's their job.
Yeah.
But when you actually hear the people that were impacted by it and you hear their testimony come through, and when I first got in there, I went to the speakers training in Oklahoma, and there was just a few of us trying to get it going, keep it organized, and trying to help. The hardest thing, I think, as a speaker is being able to tell your story to strangers, basically, at these very public events, saying and hearing the worst part of your day. And Folds of Honor is very aware that situation is what's happening. So they bring us in, and we are able to craft our stories, and we say them to each other so we can get feedback and stuff like that. And since I became a speaker, I've just seen that side of the organization grow exponentially, the resources that are available to the speakers. Because I think what's important to note is You don't get a Folds of Honor scholarship just because you were in the military. You get a Folds of Honor scholarship because something bad happened while you were in the military. It's a very distinct qualifier. And now like first responders as well. And so it's a very hard scholarship to qualify for. And it's not one you want to qualify for. You know what I'm saying? So that's my point. And so everybody that is in that Speakers Bureau has a tragic story. And I think it is helpful for when we do travel around and help share the mission of Folds of Honor and why it's impactful and when it comes in and how it's helpful. I think those stories resonate and is very helpful for the audience because now they get to see that you're donating dollars. It's not just going into a black hole of funds, right? This is actually, it's not cash coming to people or anything like that. All the money is paid directly to institutions of higher education, and the scholarships are funded, and it's going to education. And education is the one thing people can never take away from you. So, in my opinion, best investment ever. And I've seen not only Folds of Honor continue to grow over the course of the time that I've been there, but I've also seen the Speakers Bureau grow, and I've seen the speakers themselves. Like, it's almost therapeutic getting able to share that bad day over and over. And then the response when I do travel around and tell this story, and I've been all over the country. I've been from California to Long Island, New York. So like everywhere in between. And it's the same thing from all of the crowds. It's always a patriotic crowd, no matter where you're at. They're always very supportive of everything, very understanding. There's never been like an incident or anything like that. So I think it's a great organization, and I'm grateful to see the growth of it because that just means more and more people are being helped. And like you said, they've awarded 73,000 scholarships, but it's still, there's so many people in need of these things. And so the more I think we can spread the awareness of not only how much it's helping us, but there's also people out there that still need to be helped, right? And that all requires donations and money and stuff like that. So I think the way that they do business also, I think, is very good. They're very family oriented in the mind and then on the background of it. So it's never money first in Folds of Honor from my perspective. It's always like, how are you doing? It's always checking in on a very personal level and everything like that. And they always have the backing of God and the church. They pray, they do all these things. So it's a very holistic organization, in my opinion.
You touched on something I wanted to ask you about, which was the unmet need. Because while that $340 million and 73,000 scholarships is an amazing number, one of the statistics that was shared was for every scholarship they give out, there's still thousands of families out there who don't get the full funding. And so for the people that are listening to this, why is it so important that continued support happen for these military and first responder families?
My first caveat would be most people are aware that the military is there and it's dangerous and all of that thing. But usually during war, they'll report on the evening news, the casualties and stuff like that, but then you really don't see it anymore. So it's hard for the American people, I think, to really contextualize what has happened to these guys behind the scenes and just how many of us there are. And the military is a big industry. So there's lots of stuff happening. I was one incident on one ship, and there are a bunch of ships, and then they all these different branches of the military. You have all these Army things and Marine equipment, and there's so many things that are happening all the time around the world. So it's not like I was the last guy and we're just helping my family. Continuous thing that keeps happening. Guys are still out there getting injured. There are still active threats around the world where we put our men and women in danger and things happen. So it's just continuing. And then they also opened it up to first responders, police officers, firefighters, and stuff like that. And then that's the daily grind as well. So I think that's where the unmet needs come from. Is it's not really that people don't want to help. I just think they don't understand the size of the help that's required.
Such a great point you make, because you mentioned the news. We hear about the casualties, and a lot of times that is X number of people were killed in some sort of combat-ish situation. But we don't necessarily, I think, as a public, think about those that, survive and they're dealing with whatever their situation might be, like what you were talking about with your story. And so it does feel a little bit like it's a behind the scenes, unnoticed situation that needs ongoing support. And so I just appreciate so much how the Folds of Honor is approaching that.
And would also add to that real quick. Another thing that I've noticed while I'm doing all this stuff, not just with my family, but as I travel more around, is So I was injured in 2006, and these scholarships are college level scholarships. My youngest daughter, who was 2 when I was injured, is now in college. So not like something that, oh, you're injured, here's some assistance for a few years. Like this is something that's going to be, it's a need that is going to grow over time.
Yeah.
And like the Marines that were tragically killed at the gate, and the 13 Marines that we lost over there, some of them had little kids. So it's going to be, in 12 years, their children are going to need this help. And so it's got a delay effect.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. Like you said, that it is a long-term kind of situation that they're looking at and supporting. So you have a personal mission statement, which is to honor the fallen and educate the living. And I'd love for you to explain how that philosophy that you have aligns with the Folds of Honor motto of honor their sacrifice, educate their legacy, and how that impacts families facing these kinds of challenges.
Yeah. So from my perspective, I've always been very comfortable talking about what happened to me and going out in public and doing these things. But I know there's a large number of injured people that just aren't comfortable with that. Right. And so my way of honoring other people's sacrifices is going out and telling my story and just to help them out. And then honoring their service and sacrifice if they're not here to tell their story, first of all. Is, saying and generate that knowledge and spread the message so that we can help their kids. I think education is probably the best investment I've ever seen. It's just something that keeps paying over time. After they're done with school, it just helps them for the rest of their life. And I know when I joined the military, that's what I wanted to do. I was looking to move up the social ladder and do all these things. I wanted my kids to do better than me. And so obviously I didn't plan this to happen, right? So I think one of the best things we can do is acknowledge that's probably what people want. And from the grander thing is they want their next generation to do better. And what better way to honor their service and their sacrifices to help the people that they loved the most have a better life.
Having gone through a situation like yours, and then what it's like to, in essence, go out and talk about it, which is reliving it almost daily, but being able to show like that strength and courage to say, I'm going to turn this negative into this positive, not just because it benefits me, but because it benefits my brothers and sisters in arms. That's such a great thing for just to see and hear, and to even with this podcast be a small little part of. For the people who are listening and want to support organizations like Folds of Honor, what would you tell them this support does as far as an impact for the families, and how can they really get involved in the mission, maybe not just through donations?
There's a lot of things that can happen. There's a spreading awareness, just letting other people know that this organization exists, right? So even if somebody might be aware of it, but they've never been in the military, they don't know anybody in the military, you can tell the story and let other people know, spread that awareness so that it can cover the people that might not have heard about it in the first place. And then if they are able to contribute in any way, there's different levels of contribution. There's wingman packages for $13 a month, where you can just make small stuff, small packages and delivery funds, all the way up to putting together an event, like a big fundraising event and stuff like that. I've been to some big level stuff that was obviously coordinated by professionals. And I've been to smaller little golf events in the middle of Nebraska that was put up by just good, hardworking American people. Right? It all does the same thing at the end of the day. It follows money to the people that need it. And I think that Folds of Honor is probably one of the best organizations out there. They're on Charity Navigator. They're a 5-star organization. And from the behind the scenes approach, I've seen like a level of care and detail that goes to the people that are affected. It's love and heart before money and donors. You know what I'm saying? Like they try and help you process what's happening and go on with this thing. So it's very family oriented, I feel like. If you don't know that about the organization, I feel like that's great to know. Not all organizations are built the same. So definitely got to do some research. And if you're not sure where to start, I think Folds of Honor is a great place to start.
Thank you for your service. Thank you for joining me today and sharing your story and telling us more about how Folds of Honor is supporting our military and first responders and their families. So thanks for joining me today on Tips from Trestle.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
So there it is, everybody. Another one in the books. Thanks again for tuning in. Please follow, like, and subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. And be sure to follow us on social media at Tips from Trestle. You can also learn more about the work I do by following me on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and even TikTok. And be sure to check out Trestle Hospitality Concepts at www.trestlehospitalityconcepts.com. I'm your host, Aaron Fish, and this has been another episode of Tips from Trestle.